That's debatable.
No, it's my last name. I may be wrong about other things. Sure.
Okay. My first question for you. So this is really the first time a Spider-Man animated series has been completely under Marvel's control. Is that right?
That's true. That's true.
What does that mean for the series? How is that going to be different than other past Spider-Man series?
You know what it means for the series is that it's quite truest to the Marvel DNA. In the past, we've had other people interpreting what Marvel is, and you know, some of these people may have been ex-Marvel writers or employees or people that are Marvel fans, but ultimately these are now current Marvel creators, comic book creators involved in the making of these shows. As I like to say, it's like, you know, if you're a fan of Marvel, if you're a fan of the comics, of the movies, and you love the movies that we produce and the comics that we produce, this is the same thing with animation, and it's Marvel sort of just like you're getting it straight from the tap, pure Marvel.
Thanks. So I gotta say, my favorite one up until this point has been the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon. Was it? What was the reasoning behind the transition? And then is there anything you're keeping from that?
No, we're not keeping anything from it. You know, and the reason for transition, that's all sort of internal stuff that's don't get into. But this is really us sort of taking control of our IP and saying, okay, we're now going to start making these shows. We're going to start making them the way that we feel they should be made. There was nothing wrong with Spectacular. It was a great show, right? There have been some great Spider-Man shows over the years, and some not so great ones, right? We all remember the classic from the the great theme song, right?
Awesome, man.
So. But I think this particular show is really very, very unique from the point of view that we start the show to that point of view of Peter Parker and getting into his head and sort of riding on his shoulders. And he's been Peter Parker's best friend during this particular show. It's very, very funny. There's some very unique episodes. There's a Hulk episode that I'm very, very fond of that I think is a unique perspective on stuff. I don't want to give away too much, but you guys will start seeing these things start to roll out very, very soon.
When you're talking about being with Peter as much as possible, is that the reason behind the Ferris Bueller-esque sort of break the fourth wall?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a funny story behind it, because as we started developing this show, I remember sending Jeff Loeb an email and saying, listen, I have this idea. When we all read Spider-Man stories or watch the Spider-Man movie or we see the old cartoons, there's one thing that we all get out of Peter Parker. We either feel that we could be him, that he's very much like us, or we feel like we know someone just like him. So I was thinking, why not just really have Peter react with us, react with the audience, and talk to us? And almost simultaneously, as I was saying this, we were closing on the deal to get Paul Dini to become part of the team. And Paul had sent Jeff an email with almost the exact same idea. So it was something that was in the air. Pardon me. And we just added it to the show, and it just seemed to flow naturally. And quite frankly, I think that this particular idea that's going to blossom in the show is something that will probably morph its way into other aspects of the world of Spider-Man and even the comic books.
Nice.
So you mentioned that the comics people are in charge here, and obviously that involves you. You mentioned Paul Dini. What are the various roles? Because there are so many people involved. You, Paul Dini, Man of Action, Brian Bendis is involved, Jeff Loeb. What are the roles? How does everyone work together on this?
You know, it's really no different than we have our Marvel Creative Summits. We all sit in a room. We start. This is a writer's room, a TV writer's room, as opposed to a comics writer's room. So we all sit there and we start beating out the stories. You know, generally in a publishing room, someone whoever's writing Avengers is like, this is kind of what I have planned for Avengers, and we may throw ideas out, and then that person goes and writes Avengers, right? Brian Bendis. But in the writer's room, we sit there and we pitch ideas for particular episodes, ideas that stick. We also have like a character sheet, like characters that we definitely want to have guest starring roles in these episodes. And once we sort of have the kernel of an idea for a story, we'll put those up on the wall, and then the group will literally beat out the story and say, okay, this is what will be happening: first act, second act, third act, fourth act, and then those will then be assigned to writers who will then write out the outlines, scripts, and so on and so forth. But the group itself is responsible for creating the story.
So there's a, for lack of a better term, a higher level group that sort of works out the broad strokes, and then that's handed to the writers. Because I think they said there's something like 15 writers on writing staff. Joe Kelly would have a better idea about how many people all total are doing it. But I know that the Men of Action themselves are writing episodes. Brian Bendis has written 2 episodes this season already for this first season. I've actually
co-written an episode for next season. So I wish I could write more, but I just don't have time. So yes, everybody's got it's all men, hands in the pool, all writers in the pool, and it's a very, very collaborative process.
When you were talking earlier about the Ferris Bueller-esque, talking to breaking the fourth wall, is there anything else that any other ideas that you threw out that you would kind of hope that they would stick to, or?
There's a lot of stuff. The spider sense, the tech that Peter's going to be using. Some of it may work well, some of it may not. Because I know people are like, "What does Spider-Man need tech for?"
Right.
But now that he's part of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's like there's toys everywhere. Peter is a scientific kid at heart,
sure.
right? And has a mechanical, sort of scientific brain. So he's going to want to play with things. And some of this stuff may work great, some of it may not. And that's always the fun about being Peter Parker. So there's a lot of different things that we're throwing into this show. There are Spidey's sort of imaginative alter egos that'll come in and out, and his conscience will show up every once in a while and try to steer him in one direction or another. Because the thing about Peter is also Spider-Man, he's always learning on the job. So sometimes he may not give himself, or his conscience may not give him always the best advice.
Nice.
He's kind of racked with guilt a lot.
Yeah.
But Disney has sort of been interested in Marvel animation before Marvel became part of Disney. They were running Marvel animation on their channels. So what role does Marvel animation play in their goals and their plans? How does it factor in for them?
Well, the way it factors in for them is that we're going to be creating more and more content, and I think the marriage of Marvel Universe animation and DxD is just going to be a fantastic one. I think tomorrow is going to be a great kickoff. But they have been so encouraging, and the guys at DxD have been fantastic to work with because they come with all this incredible experience. I mean, we have all the experience at Marvel, right? We know what our characters are supposed to be like, but they really know this world of kids animation, kids TV. So we're able to sort of tap into that and tap into their to all the knowledge and all the research that they've done, and it's really helped us to hone these shows so that not only is it quintessentially Marvel, but we're also going to be speaking to hopefully the audience that we want to get to. We will reach out and grab them and bring them into the Marvel. So it's been a really, really great marriage, and I can't say enough about the guys at DxD. They've been fantastic to work with, and just Disney as a whole. They give us muscle that we can never have.
The distribution alone, right?
It's insane. We've gone from people perceive Marvel as being this big company before we were part of Disney. And yes, we were a large kind of company, but not a mega entertainment
company. Yeah.
And now with Disney behind us, it changes our outlook completely. As I think these last few weeks as we're starting to roll out everything. Right, here comes the Marvel Universe on DxD. Here comes the Avengers movie. I think it's become this Marvel media blitz that we've been holding onto for a little bit until things were ready. Now things are ready. Here we go.
With the future projects that you're going to be dipping into, is there going to be sort of the cross-pollination that went on with the movie franchises? Like, will we see crossovers between shows, between cartoons?
Currently, there aren't crossovers like that planned. You will see some characters appear in other shows, so we're trying to keep consistency so that Peter Parker that you see in one show is the same Peter Parker Spider-Man that you see in another show. But you won't really see things tying in or that sort of cross-continuity because I think it's difficult when in an episodic TV world for kids to do those kind of ties because you also don't know when these episodes are going to appear.
Oh, right.
So it's you try to keep them told in one as much as possible and try to keep the continuity clean as much as possible. But if you're watching all the shows, you'll understand that it is a shared universe, and that's the overall feeling. You want to feel like it's all Marvel.
Okay. Right, because you can have Iron Man appear in the Spider-Man cartoon, you can do that kind of thing.
Yes.
And I mean, do you ever think that the movies will reach that point where Spider-Man can be part of the Avengers?
Well, that would be great, right? But Spider-Man lives in the world of Sony, as X-Men lives in the world of Fox. We can only control what we can control. So we have a great plan for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and yes, I know a lot of it, and I'm not going to tell you any of it. Listen, you got the Avengers to cross first. So there's a lot of stuff that we're working on in a shared universe, but that's also a very scary thing. And that's the place where people can really sort of fall down is if you get too mired in that shared universe. You have to understand that each one of these individual movies, individual cartoon shows have to stand on their own. You can't get as intertwined and interconnected as you do with comics because you will alienate a lot of people. Every movie has to be somebody's first.
So why do you think Marvel's approach has worked where the Distinguished Competition has not so much had that success in building that kind of a movie universe.
You know, I can't speak for the other guys. You know, I can only speak for ourselves, and I think the reason it's worked for us is because we've kept it within Marvel. Kevin Feige at Marvel Studios is just a genius. I mean, he's absolutely brilliant at what he does. We have this small group that's called the Marvel Creative Committee, and it's a small group of us, and we meet on every outline, every script, every draft of that particular script for every one of our movies, to keep that, make sure that Marvel DNA is there, to make sure that we don't fall into the traps. We're very, very cognizant. A big job of that group is to say, wait, stop. We remember how this was a problem for that particular franchise, or this is a problem for that particular franchise. And hopefully, knock on wood, if we do our job right, we'll continue having that kind of success. I think The Avengers is a great testimonial to the creative committee and to the work that Kevin's done and that Joss Whedon has done, in the sense that, you know, hopefully, if you've never seen any of the other Marvel movies, you'll walk into Avengers and you'll feel perfectly fine and perfectly welcome, and like you're starting at start, and you're going to have the ride of your life.
Yeah, and I love it because there are those Easter eggs in it, yes, where if you've never seen the characters before, if you don't know the characters, you won't notice it. But if you have, you're going to appreciate it. You know. And
we're doing that in the animation world too. You know, you'll notice. I think it's the first half of the hour-long episode of the premiere episode of Ultimate Spider-Man. There's a moment in his bedroom where Peter's having a crisis of conscience, and he's sort of standing there, and then he's looking in the mirror. And if you guys ever remember that classic Spider-Man rock album thing that came out many years, the cover of that thing, we do a little homage to that. And it's the kind of thing that you guys would go, oh yeah. You know, but a 6 or 8 year old kid's, it's not going to matter, right? It's just Peter in his room. But we do a bunch of that stuff, and you know, a lot of winks to the audience as much as we can without alienating the people that we're trying to attract.
You were talking about guest stars earlier. I think White Tiger, Power Man, Iron Fist. Why these specific characters for a Spider-Man cartoon?
You know, they were the ones that really added, I think, the most to the cast, and they were characters that we also wanted to elevate in a lot of ways. You know, we have huge plans for Nova, we have huge plans for Iron Fist and Power Man, and White Tiger is just a female character that I think we'd love to put a new some focus on.
Yeah.
You know?
So did that decision originate, as you said, in that room where you have you and the other people all discussing, you all take those characters?
Yeah, it happened in a smaller room, you know, because you know. So as we started to talk about this, we started to design, you know, the right kind of characters for the show. Because again, you know, we also have to, you know, we can't throw Avengers into Spider-Man because we have an Avengers show. So we have to make sure that they're characters that we want to elevate. At the same time, they're characters that are free and clear to be able to tell the Avengers what we need to tell without necessarily messing up another show. So those are the dances that we have to dance, but I think it worked out really, really well. And I think as we start to try to elevate some of our other characters, it's always a great plan to do that by attaching them to some of our better-known characters. I think this is a success of the Avengers franchise when Bendis took over. Was, you know, people balked at the idea, well, why are Spider-Man and Wolverine on that book? Well, and here you go, right? It became the #1 franchise. So, you know, there's always a plan behind these things, but behind that plan is also a lot of creativity, because we do sit there, and for every idea that we accept, there are 30 ideas that we reject, because the first thing that comes to mind is, will our fans accept this? No? Okay, we move on.